Welcome to another GCStudio for VC Code Insight. Let's have a look what we're going to look at today. So we're looking at new features. We're continually adding new features to the GCStudio solution. We are preparing for a major release, so I thought I'd give you a short update. So what's been added over the last few days is 7 new items. Automatic chain switching. So it will actually automatically switch now from AVR-ASM when you're compiling a pick, it will automatically switch to a compatible compiler. I'll show you that in a minute. I've exposed new tool variables, the GC basic install directory, which is sort of important because we couldn't add error logging for MPASM. I'll show you this. MPASM, some of you may still use it. We've actually enhanced the error reporting on that. We've also improved the build directory dialog. Okay, so you've actually got color coding now, what's going on, so that you get good insights. Whole new piece about RAM usage in the HTML output, and you get a lot of that breakdown within that HTML. But we'll look at that in a moment. So let's go straight into the compiler. Let's zoom in for you. Control plus. Very simple program. All I'm showing you to start with, if I press function key F6 in GCStudio, it assembles. It has generated a hexadecimal file and all the other files that it needed to do. But this is typically the installation that you get. You get this very long dialogue in this bottom box here. And if you look at the bottom box now, you will see here a new entry in here called the build directory, and that is where it has built your files. So if you're confused about where it's put in your files, just look at the top of this and it will actually tell you. Then you can go control click and it will actually open up that file for you, that folder. There are all the files. They're sitting there ready for you to review. So this is, it says, let's make quite clear, it says what the source file is, it's compiling, and then the build directory is now the next line, and you can see that quite clearly what it's now doing. And then it has all the source information that you had before, color coded, which I've demonstrated previously. So let's look at what happens when we get rid of all this chatter. Function key F4 or the drop down menu, they do the same things. Get into the edit preferences, and this is the preferences editor. Let's zoom in on that, zoom in a bit more. There we go. Into the compiler tab, and we're going to be in here quite a bit. So you can turn off all that verbosity by unchecking verbose. I'm not going to press suppress yet. That's more advanced. Press OK. And now if I zoom out for you, I'm going to press function key F6, which is do the compile bit, or press the H at the top there. It actually shows you a lot less information. To be quite frank, I don't know anybody who wants the verbose stuff. I never look at it personally. But if you did want the, if you wanted to know where that file is, then you do need to have the verbose. If you want to go hunting around for things, it's in the verbose. If you think we need to change that so it shows it, let us know. I mean, that's what we can do. So we're at that point. If you want to have it always shown, the build directory, let us know. Function key F4 again, edit preferences, zoom in, change that, suppress. Now, I'm going to suppress almost all the commentary in here. And in here, you can see I've still got quite a bit of verbosity. I've got the version, what it was successful, and what it compiled in terms of the performance and metrics. Function key F6 to compile. Now with that turned off, I get very limited information. Obviously that information still exists in terms of the build folder. So let us know where do you want the build folder? Don't know. It's up to you guys. Whilst I've got the build folder open, because remember I opened it up a little while ago, this is the build folder. I'll click on that. You can now look at the HTML. Let me just, this is the HTML file. We'll go there. If I do a show preview, I can actually bring up the compilation report inside of the IDE. Now, I am using this IDE and I have added in a little bit of capability. I'll just show you what that capability is. That capability, I've added in an extension, and the extension I added in was Live Preview by Microsoft. Live Preview, and then it allows me to actually view HTML inside of here. Now watch this. So if I come into here, I now have a variable memory map. I can sort by name, sort by address, hexadecimal address, the size of that variable, and where it is in RAM. This is spectacular, because if I get a more complicated file up, let me think of a more complicated file. Control R, let me just bring in something that's a bit more complicated. I am looking for a more complicated file here. We'll bring in this one here. I'm going to compile it. I'm going to go to its build folder. So I'm just going to reveal that in the Explorer, go to its build folder. And then I'm going to open up this HTML file inside of my browser. There we go. Now look, we have got over, let's have a look in here. We've got 1100 bytes used. And if you wanted to know what they all were, what the sizes were, etc., I can now sort on that and go, right, a buffer has been created at 1024 bytes, quite a lot of RAM. This is a very complicated program. Of the 1160 bytes of RAM, a large portion of it is taken up, but here are all, this is, it tells you more about where the variables are now used, which it didn't previously. So if you wanted to know where they were sitting in RAM, the buffer's set at 256, and then these are all the variables and the size of them. So something called motion sense takes up 4 bytes. It must be a long. Could be something different, but probably a long, isn't it? Yeah. And then you've got too low. That's obviously a word. PMW value, obviously a long. So you've now got this great report in here, and you can sort on variable name, address, address in hex, size of the variable being used, and the bank. This is huge, huge change, and pretty terrific capability. So back into this demonstration here. So we're looking here back in the GCStudio, and what we've seen is that we can generate HTML files and we can preview those inside of the IDE. I had it open. Did I have it open? Here we have it open. What I'm going to do is just show you a little trick. I'm going to drag this file. Am I going to drag it this file? Can I drag a file from here to another? No, I can't. There's a lot I know. Okay. Reveal in File Explorer. I'm just going to bring in that HTML file into here so we can see it. On the right hand side, close that down. And now I can say preview on that. Can I preview it here? No, we'll leave that. Okay, so let's look at some other capabilities. Now, I am currently using GCSM as my assembler. Let me just change that for us. Let's pretend for a minute that we've been doing some work and I need to compile it in MPASM. I don't know why you want to do that, but we support it. And we have better support for it because if I now press function key F6 and compile, up pops the assembly complete and it says it did it. Okay, let's just go back to some more verbose. Let's just pop into here, a bit more verbosity. It says here that it actually assembled it using MPASMX. Went and got it and assembled it. Well, we can do the same for, surely we can do the same for a Q41, function key F6. It flashed something up in red. It's too fast for you to read it. So we've had to change the error reporting, not only for this tool, but other tools, so that it says in here, look, MPASM doesn't support the selected microcontroller. And so you would know to use GCSM, or maybe you want to use PICAS. Let's change it to PICAS. Zoom in on that for us a second. Compiler, let's just pick AS. Q41, is that supported by? And it is, because it says here assembled using PICAS. So as we introduce the debugger, you are going to have to move from GCSM to PICAS depending on what you're trying to achieve. Most people who don't use the in-depth debugger will stay in GCSM. A number of people and users will start using PICAS. But this leads to another issue, because if I now change from here to an AVR, PICAS doesn't support AVR. So we need to use something different. So if I try to compile that, rather than have an error, it's automatically selected GCSM for you. It's automatically said, this is an AVR. I will compile this using GCSM, because it says it in yellow. There's a warning for you. It's successfully done it, but to be quite frank, PICAS is still selected. It's automatically said, I cannot do that. And it says it's successfully done it. So the compiler now automatically figures out, no, you can't compile an AVR with a PICAS. I'll change it over. Function key F4. Bring up the preferences editor. Conversely, if I pick AVR ASM2, which you will need for the AVR debugger. So I'm now compiling this same program for an AVR using AVR ASM2. It says down here, it's successfully compiled it using AVR ASM2, which is great. But what happens if I went back to a pick? You know that you can see where we're going with this, okay? It's automatically selected GCSM, and it's automatically now selected GCSM for you. So now we've got smoother integration between the 4 different types of assemblers that you could be using. And there's very valid reasons why you'd want to be doing that, okay? And so some of the changes are actually capturing the error logs into the error handler correctly. We've done a lot more changes in terms of tidying up the language support so that you can create a different language version of GC Basic. Most of this could be translated into any language. Not quite sure about Cyrillic or right-handed or left-handed languages, but you know we could convert this into languages. So let me go back to my slide and just see what else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, we have done better integration with the color so that you're getting the color dialog correctly. And I'll just show you this tool variable exposed. Now, we all deep dive, really deep dive here, okay? Typically, you will use the preferences editor to edit the configuration, and that file is called use.ini. And it's a file that's formatted and structured and it's all documented. However, to get MPASM to work, we had to introduce a new feature. So MPASM, search for that. MPASM is a tool. It's a tool entry. And it says, what type is it? It's an assembler. And the command to make that work is the wherever you've installed it, plus MPASM. And there's some parameters that we pass to it. And the parameter that we basically pass to it is the file name. And it happens to be the file name of the ASM file, just so you know. All right. However, we needed to pass to it where GC Basic was installed. So new variable in here called GC Basic install path. You can now use that within the programs, and it might have other uses, but we definitely needed it for here. And if you want to know all the different variables that are available, let's have a look. Edit preferences, zoom in. here, we'll just edit one of these just to show you. Pick it plus command line, edit that one. You get, if you come into here, into the program editor, not many people come in here, you can actually say that as you come in here, you get hints at the bottom about the parameters you can put in. And if you hover over the command line parameters, you will see a list of file names, short names, extensions, etc. Okay, so that will you can drop those in, and the compiler will do automatic substitution for those particular pieces of information. And the new one that's been included is, as I showed you, GC basic install folder. So I think I've rambled enough this 15 minutes. Anything else I should show you? Logging, RAM usage in HTML. Let me just recap that. Make sure you're very clear about what we've done in there. If you want to see, I'll just come back into here, reveal in File Explorer. Here's my build directory. If I put my HTML file inside of here, I'll put it inside of my editor. Let me just drag it in. Maybe I just dragged it in. It shows me the raw file. If I want to convert it into, what's the word? So I can preview it. Extensions. The extension I have installed is Live Preview, and now I've got this Live Preview. I can actually preview it. Now, how it's puzzled and puzzling me why I can't right-hand mouse button on it. Right-hand mouse button. View. Function key F2. Let me just do a type preview in here. There you go. F2, show preview. I was really struggling there, wasn't I? But now I've got the compile, I can see it as I'm sitting here. I can see it change. So if I come into here and type in this, dim my var as long equals 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not a long, but that will do. We can see in here we've only got COM port and serial data. I'm just going to do function key F6 to compile that source file. It's compiled it. I can now look at my memory map over here. If I refresh it, there's a little refresh icon at the top here. Look. I now see that my var has been allocated the address of 1281 hexadecimal 501, and it's a 4-byte variable, which it should be because it's a long. If I put that to a word and I recompile, bit of a clue here, I'll show you a bit of a clue as well. Okay, if I shut down that little window there, look for you. If you actually hit enter in here, it updates the preview automatically. So you can now see that my var, same memory location, 501 in hexadecimal is now a 2-byte variable. Spectacular. With that, we'll call it a wrap.